What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. After years of anticipation, Goldberg would finally make his WWE debut in March of 2003. He would begin with a feud with Hollywood Rock going into Backlash 2003, then he would reignite his WCW feud with Chris Jericho, leading to a one-on-one match at the Bad Blood event in June of that year. Then Goldberg would finally set his sights on Triple H and the World Heavyweight Championship going into SummerSlam, which was originally scheduled to be a one-on-one match until being turned into an Elimination Chamber match that would also feature Kevin Nash, Chris Jericho, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels. And in this match, Goldberg would dominate the entire match within minutes until he was set to hit a spear on Triple H, in which Triple H would hit Goldberg over the head with a sledgehammer and retain the World Heavyweight Championship, thus ending any momentum Goldberg had going into this year. Goldberg would then win the World Heavyweight Championship the following month at Unforgiven, but it just wasn't the same feeling as it would have been if he had won at SummerSlam. Goldberg would only hold the title for approximately 3 months before dropping it back to Triple H in a triple threat match featuring Kane at Armageddon. Then during the 2004 Royal Rumble match, he would be attacked by Brock Lesnar before being eliminated, which then led Goldberg to invading the SmackDown pay-per-view event No Way Out in attacking Brock Lesnar, weakening him enough to where Eddie Guerrero would defeat him later on in the night and win the WWE Championship. Then at WrestleMania 20, Goldberg would then face off against Brock Lesnar in a match that no one really cared about, since it was well known that both Goldberg and Brock Lesnar were set to leave WWE after WrestleMania 20. And even with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the special guest referee, this couldn't save the match at all. Now, a few months ago, I did do an episode talking about what if Brock Lesnar didn't leave WWE in 2004, so I thought I would do a part 2 of this by talking about the other way around. What if Goldberg had stayed in WWE but Brock Lesnar left? So of course, that is today's episode. We're going to be talking about what if Goldberg didn't leave WWE in 2004. So how I'm going to be doing this episode is that I'm going to be going through every single pay-per-view that Goldberg would have competed at all the way until WrestleMania 21 in 2005. And that's mainly also because I think Goldberg, if he were to have re-signed, would have once again only agreed to a 1-year deal. And we need to go into this thinking that maybe Goldberg got a lot of money and a lot of convincing with great booking, unlike his 2003 run, to convince him to stay 1 extra year. And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. And I do want to mention that for this what if scenario, I'm actually going to have Goldberg get drafted to the SmackDown brand, and he's going to be turning heel, because I feel that if he stayed on the Monday Night Raw brand, where we did have guys like Chris Benoit, Edge, and even Shawn Michaels as top baby faces, that I think Goldberg would have been really lost in the shuffle at this point. So I think going to SmackDown would have been a big refresher. And I think having Goldberg turn heel would have made him a huge badass compared to what we seen in 2003. And so the first pay-per-view he would compete in is at Judgment Day 2004, which it would be Goldberg versus Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship. Now, I think this definitely would make sense in the scenario where Goldberg could be mentioning to Eddie Guerrero that the only way that he was able to defeat Brock Lesnar was because of Goldberg attacking Brock Lesnar earlier on the night, weakening him enough to where Eddie Guerrero had somewhat of a chance of beating Brock Lesnar at No Way Out. So it's almost like a, hey, I helped you with winning this title, give me an opportunity at the championship. So Eddie Guerrero, of course, accepts this match, and he faces Goldberg at the event, which would lead to actually Goldberg winning the WWE Championship that night. Of course, in the real timeline, we did see JBL get inserted into that spot, but had Goldberg actually been able to stay and been a part of SmackDown, I don't think there would have been a need for JBL to take the main main event heel spot, they could have had him in the mid-card spot, working his way to later becoming a main event heel. Then at the Great American Bash 2004, it is a rematch between Eddie Guerrero and the newly crowned WWE Champion Goldberg, but this time in a last man standing match. I wanted to come up with some sort of gimmick match that of course wasn't a Texas Bull Rope match, since that was more catered towards JBL, so I think maybe a last man standing match would be fitting, especially if we've seen Eddie Guerrero take like 10 spears throughout the match and somehow he still gets up after so many of them. But ultimately we get the spear and the jackhammer, and of course Goldberg would end up winning the match, and we would see some sort of kayfabe injury from Eddie Guerrero. SummerSlam 2004, I would have Goldberg defend the WWE Championship against Rey Mysterio. Now this definitely would tie into the Eddie Guerrero-Goldberg storyline due to Rey Mysterio's friendship with Eddie Guerrero. And now Rey Mysterio is on the hunt to avenge his friend Eddie Guerrero and possibly take the WWE Championship from Goldberg. But of course, we all know what would happen in this scenario, and that basically within minutes, Goldberg would retain the WWE Championship by defeating Rey Mysterio. Now moving on to No Mercy 2004, I would have Goldberg defend the WWE Championship against Rob Van Dam. Now I know Rob Van Dam is a bit of a random opponent realistically for Goldberg, but I feel like in this case that Rob Van Dam was due to have some sort of world title match, especially with how Rob Van Dam was treated on Monday Night Raw with the World Championship scene. Now I don't know if there's a stipulation to this match where maybe it's more towards RVD style where it's more hardcore, but at the end of the day we once again see Goldberg retain the WWE Championship. Survivor Series 2004, Goldberg would defend the WWE Championship against Booker T. Now we did see in the real timeline with JBL as WWE Champion that he would face off against Booker T. But I think it would make even more sense for these two to clash off in this scenario because of their past in WCW. So this would have been a true test for Booker T, but of course, Goldberg once again retains the WWE Championship. The next pay-per-view is Armageddon 2004, and I think in this scenario, Goldberg would defend the WWE Championship against Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Rob Van Dam, and The Undertaker inside an Elimination Chamber match. Now, of course, in the real timeline, we've seen the Fatal 4-Way match with JBL, Eddie Guerrero, Booker T, and The Undertaker, but I think with this storyline, you have opponents for the most part that Goldberg has already faced besides, of course, The Undertaker. And I think it would make sense for the Elimination Chamber match, considering that maybe there's some self-doubt with Goldberg, considering that with the prior year at SummerSlam 2003, Goldberg was unable to win that Elimination Chamber match, so he needs to prove himself this time around that he can actually win this match. And once again, for the most part, we do see Goldberg kind of taking out everyone within minutes, and the final two of the match would be Goldberg versus The Undertaker, and in this match, we would see some sort of spot where maybe it's either a tombstone or it's a last ride that The Undertaker hits on Goldberg, and unfortunately, and I really mean unfortunately, Heidenreich would interfere in the match and cost The Undertaker the WWE Championship, especially because we've seen that spot as terms to the actual match at Armageddon, and as Goldberg gets up and he doesn't know what had happened, he takes advantage and pins The Undertaker 1, 2, 3 and retains the WWE Championship. And I'm sure that there's quite a bit of views that don't like the way that that match ended for Goldberg, but it doesn't seem like a Goldberg thing, but trust me, it plays into what happens later on in this what if scenario. Then at the Royal Rumble 2005, Goldberg would defend his WWE Championship against Kurt Angle and The Big Show in a triple threat match. And it would be like the same scenario as we've seen in the real timeline, but replacing JBL is that we would actually see Goldberg retain the WWE Championship by pinning Kurt Angle in the match, and thus setting up Big Show to challenge Goldberg in this case for the No Way Out pay-per-view, which of course, Big Show versus Goldberg for the WWE Championship at No Way Out. But this time, this of course will will not be a barbed wire steel cage match like we seen in the real timeline with JBL. And you know what obviously happens? Goldberg would somehow overcome the odds and take out the 500-pound Big Show and retain the WWE Championship. Maybe hitting Big Show with the jackhammer once again, like back in WCW. And now we're here at WrestleMania 21. And this was actually the most difficult pay-per-view to think of because I thought of 3 different scenarios, which this is going to be the first time that I'm going to be doing something like this in a what if video, where I'm going to have option A, option B, or option C. And if I'm going to have you guys comment anything as terms to this video, I want to know what you think would have happened at WrestleMania 21 in this case. So option A in this case would basically be like the real timeline. Goldberg would end up defending the WWE Championship against the up-and-comer John Cena, which of course would see the exact same thing as the real timeline, where John Cena overcomes the odds and wins the WWE Championship for the first time. Especially with Goldberg on his way out, it just wouldn't make sense for Goldberg to retain unless he had re-signed with the WWE, which I think for sure at this point he wouldn't have re-signed. Which then would mean that we would still have Batista versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship, Randy Orton versus Undertaker, and especially the match of the night contender of Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. Option B, Goldberg walks into WrestleMania 21 as the WWE Champion and defends the title against The Undertaker. Now this is where I mentioned about playing into effect of what happened at Armageddon, because Goldberg had went through pretty much everybody besides The Undertaker, and Undertaker would even bring up a point that the only reason that he had beaten him at Armageddon was because of interference with Heidenreich. But with no Heidenreich, we can actually see Goldberg versus The Undertaker one-on-one at WrestleMania, which of course would see Undertaker defeat Goldberg for the WWE Championship. And as terms to the other matches, John Cena would still face JBL, but in this case it's for the United States Championship instead of the WWE Championship. We still would get Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. However, Randy Orton would be inserted into the Batista versus Triple H match for the World Heavyweight Championship, thus making it a triple threat match. Or maybe add Ric Flair in there to literally have a Evolution Fatal 4-Way match. Your choice. And then option C. Now, if you choose option C, it may change a little bit of different results as terms to even the Royal Rumble, because with option C, I would see Goldberg actually dropping the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble to Kurt Angle, in which Kurt Angle would defeat Big Show in that case. We would see Kurt Angle face Big Show at No Way Out for the WWE Championship, while Goldberg actually doesn't compete at the event, but later actually makes an appearance by hitting a spear on The Undertaker at some point during the event, which then would lead to WrestleMania 21, where it is Undertaker versus Goldberg in a one-on-one match with no WWE Championship. And then when it comes to the other matches, it would be John Cena versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. We would still get Batista versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then we would have Shawn Michaels against Randy Orton in a one-on-one match that we already seen multiple times as terms to either a Monday Night Raw or one of the B Show pay-per-views. So we would miss out on 2 epic matches from the real timeline if you had picked option C,